well, attempt number 19. But yeah, as I was saying, Skyward Sword made all the dungeon items at least useful in some way or another. I do like also the fact that the motion controls are implemented very well because of the Wii Motion Plus. A lot of people love to bash on Skyward Sword because of like the whole motion control gimmicks, but I feel like a lot of people love to bash the game not for the motion control gimmick, but for the fact that, like, again, they can't just wildly swing their sword like a maniac. I feel like that's like the main reason why they don't like Skyward Sword. Because they're like, oh, I can't just like spam the sword attack to defeat enemies. This game sucks. And I feel like a lot of people fall into that mentality of like, because they can't play the game the way they want to play the game sucks. And therefore, it's not like the game's problem, it's the fact that you're not willing to learn the controls. It's the fact that one's not willing to learn, you know, to play the game how the game intends you to play it, as to why, like, you're having such trouble. Because again, if you don't learn how to play the game, of course you're going to be bad at the game. That's just a natural given. And that's for any video game. It's not just like adventure games, like, you know, platformers, races, shooters, horror games, survival games, any video game. If you are one who refuses to learn how to play the game, you're 100% going to struggle. Because again, you refuse to learn how to play the game, how the devs actually want you to play the game. That's what really annoys me. It's not a game problem, it's more of a player problem. That's the thing that really annoys me to no end, is the fact that, like, people love to blame everything else but themselves when they struggle at something, instead of, you know, admitting that it's probably a bit of skill issue. It's kind of like the reason why Majora's Mask 3D kind of ended up being a bad remake. The thing is, when a game developer does not understand why their original work is so beloved, they are more likely to make changes that undermine the overall quality of the game itself. AGL Newman, again, he may have probably struggled on some areas like in Majora's Mask, and because of that, he ended up making a bunch of changes that end up once again undermining the base quality of the game. Like, oh, the Deku Link sections, he didn't like the Deku Link sections, therefore he had to completely water down the Deku Link sections. Or, you know, despite the fact that the original design, there was absolutely no problem with it whatsoever, because the level design was designed in an instructive manner. Instructive level design is like no risk, low risk, and you gradually build that risk up. And then that's like why the Deku Link section worked so well in the first place. It rewarded players for learning and mastering the controls. And don't even get me started, I'm gonna get into bosses in a bit, but like Zora Link was designed again with a bit of a learning curve, and like the entirety of the Great Bay, again, you can swim around super fast with Zora Link, and like, again, the thrill of being able to swim super fast is what made Zora Link enjoyable in the first place. Because the Great Bay is so big, that's more opportunity to get used to Zora Link's swimming controls. But in the remake, I don't know why, but they ended up making it so he ends up swimming akin to regular Link wearing the Zora armor in Twilight Princess, like a generic swimming animation, which no one asked for. I mean, yes, the fast swimming still does technically exist, but then the problem is now it consumes magic, so a lot of people will just be like, oh no, that uses magic, I shouldn't use that. I should probably save that for when I need it. And then you just never use it because there's never an opportunity to actually learn how to use said mechanic until like the one section where the game expects you to have mastered the mechanic. This also kind of creates, like, again, a lot of issues in the Gerudo Pirate Fortress section, because the fast swimming is very useful, but then you need magic for other copy abilities, and they didn't make it so magic spawns either. You can very easily run out of magic. There's also technically like another change in the Gerudo Pirate Fortress I do not like, which actually pertains to one of the masks you can obtain. They actually changed how you obtain the stone mask for no reason at all. So in the original version of the game, in Ikana Valley, if you use the Lens of Truth in Ikana Valley, you get the Stone Mask, which is a mask intended to basically make the player invisible. So it makes stealth sections a lot more bearable. The main, like, areas, like the Gerudo Pirate mini-bosses, you still have to fight the mini-bosses. So you can't just, like, cheese the entire thing. Like, again, it's intended for if you're struggling in the stealth sections of the game. What did they change with the Stone Mask in the way you obtain it? The only way to get Stone Mask in Majora's Mask 3D is by, you know, getting pretty much almost to the end of the Gerudo Pirate Fortress to find the same postman who's invisible to everyone and gives you the stone mask. So you don't get the stone mask until it's like no longer relevant to the player at all, which is just like, why change something that didn't need fixing? Why try to fix something that isn't broken in the first place? And then it's the same thing with Zora Link. Again, they tried to fix the Zora Link swimming mechanic for no reason at all. Again, they did not need to change the Zora Link mechanic, and then they just decided to anyway. It's the same thing with Deku Link. They changed how Deku Link's mechanics work, and then they also changed how all the boss fights work. So Adowa was actually unique in the fact that it's essentially a no-holds-barred fight to the death. One rule, defeat him before he defeats you. How did they change that in the Majora's Mask 3DS remake? They add eyeball to his back for no reason. They just end up totally changing how the boss fight works from a fundamental value. It's just a bunch of arbitrary changes for like absolutely no reason at all. And then they also kind of like made certain aspects worse. The Bomber Guide notebook was actually fine in the original game. There was absolutely no need to change that whatsoever. So how did they change the Bomber notebook to make it worse? They ended up making it so like there's this long ass pause every single time you end up gaining information on a new character. In the original game, just a little like banner appeared and then that was it. But in the remake, they have to play a whole ass cutscene of you getting information on that character. And it makes it go from being an interesting mechanic to just tedious. The thing is, Majora's Mask shined when it was, weird, wacky, unique. And the problem is by removing that weird, wacky, and unique aspect, it just completely destroys what makes Majora's Mask Majora's Mask. There were people who were like, oh yeah, this is the first time I've ever been able to beat Majora's Mask because I couldn't beat the original. But then that's the thing. The game was built for you. It wasn't built for the people who played the original Majora's Mask in the first place. So what they did essentially was they just made a worse version of the game just so the mainstream audience can beat it. And the original will always be better. Ocarina of Time 3D actually kind of improves on certain aspects. Yes, Ocarina of Time does kind of dumb down some mechanics, like the water temple is probably one of the most infamous things. Water temple ended up kind of getting dumped down a lot. So what they did was they just color coded every single floor for player convenience. But then again, the water temple is also kind of probably somewhat linear anyway. But then the problem with water temple in the Ocarina of Time 3D, the boots being an item is definitely an improvement I can get behind. But not color coding literally the entire dungeon for the sake of hand holding. I absolutely despise when a remake just kind of dumbs down everything to end up just trying to suit the mainstream audience. I don't like that at all, personally. I think that's one of the worst things you can do for a remake is just kind of dump down. I mean, unless of course it was, again, extremely vague and just you needed to look up a guide levels of bad, then yeah, I can understand that, okay, you might want to improve on that section. But if there was nothing wrong with that in the first place, then why bother? They did also kind of have to massively censor all the blood. So Ocarina of Time had a lot of blood assets in the bottom of the well and the Shadow Temple. They completely censored that in the 3DS version. So some people might want to play the original version because of that. And then they also did the censorship in Majora's Mask as well. I feel the problem is yeah, they got more sensitive. A lot of games back then that were rated PG would be rated M nowadays. The rating would actually get bumped up. You kind of get stuff past a radar back in the day, but now it won't get past today. And then there's also the whole censorship of different releases of games having censorship to try and comply with an audience. There is also that as well. I mean, I get it, if cultural values are different, but I feel censorship for the sake of censorship, that's a no-no for me personally. I also don't like when the censorship is done really poorly. So oh, if a game's too graphic and they censor it and then they just make the graphics worse. And then there's banned games, games that are just outright banned in certain countries for different reasons. Australia is actually pretty infamous for actually banning a crap ton of games that honestly, when you look at the surface, are just not offensive. If you just want to look through every single game that Australia either heavily censored or just refused classification, you would just be here all day if you were reading like how they were censored or why they were just refused classification in the country. I feel like Australia is a lot worse than Germany in that regard. Like, at least Germany got games in a censored format, whereas Australia, for the most part, is like, nope, if the government doesn't like it, then it's just outright refused classification in general. Sometimes the censored versions that Germans would get would be too much for the Australian classification board for no reason at all. I mean, Australia also does have a massive thing against like alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs are actually treated pretty seriously in Australia. So that's why like any game with alcohol or drug references in video games is just outright refused classification. Even to this day, like, alcohol no longer gets the game censored, but drugs do. And there's like a lot of video games that kind of like unfortunately then suffered, like didn't get classified as a result. And there are some games that have never gotten reclassified despite the fact that, like, you know, the law changes. Conker's Bad Fur Day is like, again, a cult classic among Nintendo 64 fans. The reason why that game never got released in Australia is because it has drug references. One of the actual like power-ups involves you taking like antacid or aspirin or something like that. Again, like, because some power-ups actually involve you actively consuming a drug or something to get a power boost, the ACB was just like, nope. They said no to that and they just refused classification. Yeah, I don't know whether Conker's Bad Fur Day was actually released in Germany, but I know for a fact that Conker's Bad Fur Day is one of like many very popular video games that ended up just getting outright censored in Australia. A surefire way to end up getting a game censored in Australia is, you know, have drugs in it. If you have drugs in a video game, then like it's gonna get censored. It's also the reason why like GTA often got released in a massively censored state. And you also got to take into account, we never had an R18 plus rating until like 2013. It took almost 3 whole decades just to get R18 plus rating for video games in general. If the game would be too extreme for MA, then ACB just said no, and you couldn't do anything about it. It's actually the reason why so many popular games never got released in Australia. Like, again, Conker's Bad Fur Day never got released. The only reason why Grand Theft Auto released was because they censored it to the absolute best of their abilities. If they did not censor Grand Theft Auto, then Grand Theft Auto would just be outright refused classification and wouldn't be released in Australia. The only reason why we got an R18 plus rating was actually because of Grand Theft Auto 5, so GTA 5. My knowledge is that Rockstar got to the point of like saying that they're not going to release a censored version of the game anymore. Because of that, that would have meant that in the case of like Australia would not be getting GTA 5, which would obviously for sure cause like a lot of controversy. If again, the latest Grand Theft Auto game got refused classification because the ACB just like, oh, they're not releasing a censored version anymore, so we're not going to classify it, we're not going to allow it to be legally released in Australia, people were absolutely going to riot. Like, that was going to happen. A lot of people were going to be like very upset. So all the like different like regional ministers were like, okay, do we make R18 plus a thing? And like the petition had to be a unanimous decision. And like the funny thing is that like every single regional minister did agree on releasing an R18 plus rating in general. There was one minister in South Australia that was against it, and unfortunately, to include R18 plus, unanimous decision has to be a thing. Because again, if not every single party agrees, then like the ruling doesn't go through. Because then like people got so upset at that minister for not allowing an R18 plus rating, what happened was people just, when it came time to pick the next minister, they immediately voted for the other person just to spite the person. Because he was not allowing R18 plus to be a thing, people were legitimately very upset. Again, after voting him out, the other minister was like, yeah, sure, like, I don't see why not. Because that one person got voted out, that's why they ended up getting the R18 plus. So it took like, that's the reason why it took so long just to get an R18 plus rating in general. I mean, it's not like the R18 plus rating has helped to prevent less games from being refused classification, no. It just, all it's done is made it so like the GTA games that got censored because of the lack of an R18 plus rating are now actually able to be released in an uncensored state. That's literally like the only thing that has legit changed. The games that were initially refused classification due to kind of like, you know, having drugs in them or anything, they still get refused classification. That fact, unfortunately, has not changed. But in games that would normally have to get, like, massively censored, no longer have to be censored. But yeah, that's, like, the reason why, because otherwise we wouldn't be getting, like, some of the newer Mortal Kombat games or Disco Elysium or anything like that. Yeah, you can actually kind of get crushed to death here. Which, by the way, does count as a taking damage and will mean that we have to reset the run. And this is what we use this ability for. So sun, water droplet, and tree. So what we do is go in here, hold down, tree, water droplet, hold down, this, hold down, and we get the crystal shard. I do want to try and get double sparking. Damn, my throwing accuracy is actually garbage. I'm actually kind of annoyed. There we go. And I'm gonna sit here, and we're just gonna sit here. And that's the final crystal shard. That's the final crystal shard, really? Okay, that was actually not that bad. New PB, let's go. So this is definitely one of the most unique bosses in the game. Basically, it's 3 entities. Down, up. How the hell did I not take any damage there? What? And this is where the boss fight actually begins. Personal best, let's go. Aquastar, I think, yeah, the 2nd level and the 4th level are probably going to be a bit more trickier. I think the 1st level is only going to be tricky because of that 1 crystal shard we need to get. And yeah, it's basically exploding snowman. Oh yeah, it's this enemy. So glad I was able to react to that in time. Oh, I saw like the whole run flash before my eyes. Right there. Oh, and then there's like these freaking enemies as well. Yep, these are ones. These are also annoying. This is not as bad as the 2nd level. Oh, but yeah, I almost ate my words there. In crystal shard. Oh no. I'm taking this very, very safely. I am not taking any risks. Until it explodes. We get to like the most annoying enemy in the entire game. Go, 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 go. And we stand on here. Yes, we actually got through this without the ability. Let's go. Blow that up. Go in there. Fly up. Crystal shard. Yeah, that's like the one reason why this level is just obnoxious. Hello, Chibi Manny. Hello, welcome to the chat. How have you been? How has your day been? I'd be very interested to hear. Hello, how are you doing? Hope you've been having... I hope your day's been fine today. Hope you've had a really lovely day today. This is my #1 favorite Kirby game. You have very good taste. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. This is definitely the most unique Kirby game to this day. They have not made another Kirby game quite like this one. And I think this is the area where you actually require... Yep, this is the 100% the area where you require the mini-boss. So I'm just gonna like do this, please. Yes, I was actually quite nervous about whether we'd actually get through that, and now we have to get all the way back down. Oh yeah, it's like the whole boat ride. Everyone's favorite mechanic. This is like the one mechanic I've always been nervous about for this run. Jump. We got the crystal shard. Let's go. That's the again. I didn't want to have to try and replay through the whole level just to get locked right to it. Yep, this is it. Let's go. Oh, invincibility candy. Yep, we're definitely taking that, and we are definitely beelining it. And we're just gonna run to the end of this level, and then hopefully, somewhere along the way we can get the final crystal shard and get through this level. Oh, found it. I almost ran past it. Oh, and you got like these spike log hazards. Okay, yep, I know what this area is. You gotta survive the spiky cinnamon rolls. Yeah, they do look like spiky cinnamon rolls, don't they? They actually definitely look like spiked cinnamon rolls. I've gotten so far in the run, I really just don't want to take damage now, otherwise it's just all Jova. This isn't even gonna be like the hardest section, I know that for a matter of fact. World 4 is gonna be like the big major roadblock in this whole run. Acro might end your run, good luck. Thanks, yeah, oh, I nearly ran into that. Okay, yeah, Acro's actually a surprisingly hard boss by like mid-game Kirby standards. Again, Acro is like one of those boss fights. What ability do I want to take into the Acro fight? I have no idea at all. I have no idea. I want to take in Drill, but then like with copy abilities, they just work slower underwater. Yeah, we're gonna read Stonecutter for this one. I think, though, before I worry about Acro, I still have to get past the 4th level, because again, that level is fully underwater. Bomb and Boomerang is good against Acro. Actually, that is actually a really good point, isn't it? Yeah, because, like, again, it's not affected by the underwater slowdown, is it? I think I might actually want to, like, you know, go back and get a Bomb Cutter then. Thanks to the tip there, like, again, I think that might actually be a really good ability. I think World 4, though, is going to be absolutely daunting, though. Like, World 4, you've got, like, World 2 and World 4 in particular are just going to be, like, run killers. I think those two are going to end my run. If it's not Acro, and it's not the underwater level, I think World 2 and World 4 might be the two levels that do my run. And I think we might be stuck on those for quite a while. But this level is actually quite an easy one. I like how kind of this is kind of like the breather level. You can do the underwater where damage is doable. Yeah, I'm still like super nervous though. It's because there's like one enemy that has like appendages that extend above you. That's like the one enemy I'm like, again, very worried about. There's also like the falling rock section. The falling rock section is not that bad actually, but there is actually a much worse one later on in Neostar. Actually, does this ability require 1 or 2 mix abilities for the crystal shards? I don't know. Let me check up here. I think, didn't this one require Cutter and Bomb? Go to the side. Yeah, this actually does require Cutter and Bomb, huh? Well, what do you know? If you want to avoid damage by the rocks, you could get double electric. Yeah, but for Neostar, you do require Ice and Needle, and you can't get Ice within the level itself. In fact, I think there's actually like a few different Ice mix abilities you can get that can actually get that one Crystal Shard. I think it's like halfway through the level, but I think Ice and Needle might be the best one. Yeah, like double electric is really good for avoiding damage from the rocks if you're doing not every crystal shard, but because this is 100% run and because we do need an ice mix ability specifically to get that one crystal shard, we do not get the option of double spark. Cutter and Bomb for Acro. There's obviously Bomb and Stone. Bomb and Stone are going to be absolutely like some of the worst parts. Don't forget you can also borrow some enemy build by holding above your head. That is, yeah, I do have to remember that, keeping that in mind. But then, like, again, I don't think that really helps that much in the subterranean. I don't think that's going to help. You can slide kick past some enemies. That is true. Can you slide kick the flaming rocks? I don't know whether you can. I think they'd still damage you. I could be wrong, though. Probably better not chance it. Yeah, I think we just got to, like, basically hope for the best. Yeah. Oh. Well, this is... You can try headbutting them. I mean, I don't think you can headbutt the volcanic rocks. The volcanic rocks will still try and damage you anyway. It's also a risk. Yeah, it's also definitely very much a risk. This is actually the one instance of mandatory stone and cutter. To get this crystal shard, you need to go to Rick specifically. Nago and Rick really do look the same, huh? They really do look very alike. Where the heck is Rick? Where on earth is Rick? I'm just mashing the button until, like, I get the right one. That's Rick. That's Nago again. That's Rick. That's why you need it. This is like the one instance in the game where this actual ability of Rick is actually useful. Never anywhere else in the game does this actually get, like, used. Because you can't actually, like, inhale up enough because it's too far up. You gotta avoid them spiky cinnamon rolls, as we like to call them. Nor would anyone ever figure out without having played Dreamland 3. Yeah, I think it was meant to be, like, a kind of like a thing for Kirby Dreamland 3 players. Like, for those who have played Dreamland 3, it's like, did you know that this special technique exists? Like, again, if you haven't played Dreamland 3, how on earth would you know to get that ability? I think that's probably one of the worst crystal shards in the game specifically because of how cryptic it is. If you haven't played Dreamland 3, you wouldn't know about the ability. And so, like, for those who never grew up with the SNES console, they would never know that you could ever do that. And so it's just like, you're just, like, trying to figure everything out through trial and error. Yeah, this is like... Oh, you can stand on that area? Oh, that was... No! Oh, no! 1 out of 4.5. 1 out of 4 of the hardest crystal shards to collect. Yeah, and then you've also got, like... Yeah, that was extremely unfortunate. Yeah. The other hard ones, you've got, the factory level in Shiver Star. That's another one. Look how far we were. That's so unfortunate. Oh, I'm actually kind of a bit upset about that. But yeah, like, you got the crystal, you got, like, yeah, the cutter one. Factory is easy. Yeah, like, if you're doing a damage list, I mean, Is it really? I mean, the one you've got like the DDD section. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see when we get there, I guess. I think the volcano level will probably be like the biggest brick wall in the entire game. Yeah, you just have like the falling rocks section. You have to carry ice and needle throughout like the entire level. So there's that you have to take into account as well. There's a whole like chase section, and then you have the DDD section as well, and the DDD section also has a fairly cryptic shard as well. The stone and cutter one isn't too bad if you know about the Rick ability, but I can understand why so many players would get stumped on it. Volcano shard, the long drop in Neo Star, and the Adelaide block shards are the other pretty hard ones. Honestly, I've never had an issue with the Adelaide block shards in Neo Star, or at least like, I've never found it to be as bad as some other shards. Pretty much all the volcano shards are an absolute nightmare if you're going to be doing a damageless run. Like, every single one of those is going to be a right nightmare. But then, like, the long drop in Neo Star, I think the bomb and dynamite one is just absolutely unforgiving. Like, the fact that you have to carry an ability that can actively hurt Kirby throughout, like, most of the level is just downright cruel of the devs. You've probably been doing the top hat is the easy way to get umbrella, semi-easy. I did the pizza one. The pizza one I've never had a problem with, ever. Like, the pizza one I found to be fairly easy because you can just kind of headbutt the blocks. I could never figure out how to do the pizza. It is a little bit of trial and error. I mean, you just kind of like cut off the quarter of a one section, and then I think it's then like diagonally you end up like having to trim the edges. You try and make like a rough circle, and then after you make the rough circle, then you get the crystal shard, and you just yeah, take the corner out. I think the pizza one, again, I figured the pizza one out kind of on my first attempt. I may have been a bit lucky in that regard, but never figured out how to do the pizza. Yeah, I feel like the top hat one is super easy. Like, that one I can definitely attest to. And the umbrella one is also like semi-easy as well. Again, I can attest those two are like easier than the pizza one. Well, I mean, we'll never get to find out if Acro would be easy with Cutter and Bomb her because we have to make our way back. I don't know how hard Magman will be though. I don't know how hard the World 4 boss will be. I'm a little like nervous about that one as well. You have like the environmental hazards in the form of like the lava in the first phase. I think the second phase will be really easy, but I think the first phase will be very hard. I think the fifth boss will be really easy as well. I think the fifth boss is actually super easy. Cutter and Bomb or Drill will both be really good abilities. The three hard bosses are going to be Acro, Magman, and then Miracle Matter. I think Miracle Matter is just hard in general though. I don't know whether with Miracle Matter, I'm going to try doing it with ability combos or whether try doing it without the abilities. Because I know you're intended to do it without mix abilities. You're supposed to just kind of like use his projectiles against him. But no, I think for fun, I might do like another rule where I have to use combined abilities and then I have to like then strategize which abilities do I use. I will say with Miracle Matter though, you could do mixed abilities. Yeah, there are 3 forms of Miracle Matter, which you can just basically stand in the corner and he can't do anything. The only real 4 forms of Miracle Matter that are genuinely, like, dangerous are Fire, Bomb, Stone, and I think the most dangerous one of all is actually Spark. But then, like, Needle, Ice, and Cutter, you can literally just stand in a corner and he can't do anything. I do know when I play this game, like, Needle doesn't reach the like corner areas, and then like Cutter you can just like stand in the corner and once again, but then like Ice I believe you can also stand in the corner of as well and he can't touch you. Those 3 abilities also make really good kind of combining material. Yeah, HRH and HRE shouldn't be too hard. Backtrack, get Cutter, Bomb, and it just makes the fight really easy. It's a dynamite ability, and like if you don't crouch, it can actually damage Kirby. And yes, that will count as taking damage and thus end up ending the run. But it's also the fact you have to take it so far into the level. It feels earlier in the level, it wouldn't be too bad. But because you have to like play through such a large chunk of the level, essentially not being able to attack at all, that's what makes it so frustrating. So yeah, gonna call it a night. Well, you have a lovely night. You have a well-deserved rest. You have a well-deserved rest. Have a good night. Yeah, you too. In this stream, I want to see if I can make it to Neo Star, because in the last stream, we actually made it all the way to 3-4, as you can see, but we died at like the beginning of the level, which I'm again really upset about failing to run in a stupid way. In the end, we got a really good run going, and we made it all the way to Aqua Star, which I was very proud about. but then I was very upset about actually failing in such a stupid way. The previous 2 streams, I have basically been doing a short stream for Banjo-Kazooie. As for recap on the Banjo-Kazooie streams, I have made it past Rusty Bucket Bay, and I actually somehow did the entire engine room on my first try. So again, as I want to say, the engine room is not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. We actually 100%ed Rusty Bucket Bay, and I'm gonna get rid of you. Oh, that was such a stupid... I was trying to put the drill input, and I knew, like, in the end, because of a delay, that's such a dumb way to end a run. To end a run this early, I'm actually kind of annoyed. Well, you've reached the end of this video, so why not like the video and leave a comment, as it helps out the channel a lot. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the next video. Also, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, as I post daily on Twitter and I stream all this content live on Twitch. Links are in the description below. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day.